Welcome everyone to Color Commentary. We are your Pauper commentators, Michael Petchik and Adrian Guarzales. How's it going, Adrian?
Spoilerific. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing all right. I can't complain. As I'm sure everyone has realized because you clicked on this video or podcast episode, this is going to be our set review of the new Ravnica Allegiance, which I've been calling Ravnica Alliance a whole bunch because they're very similar words, and I cannot.
And you're an idiot.
Exactly. Yes, we're just catastrophic. But we are going to forego our usual sponsorship stuff and I'm just going to leave you with this. If you want to hear about the people who bring you the show, go listen to literally any episode from the past few months. You'll get all that information. Let's just get right into this. So this is the second set out of this batch of Ravnica sets, since it's no longer a block. But in this set, we have 5 new guilds. So we have Orzhov's, which is black-white. We have Rakdos, which is black-red. We have Gruul, which is red-green. We have cynic, which is green-blue. And we have Azorius, which is white-blue. So we're going to go through these in set order. So the little collector number in the bottom. We're going to talk about them for both Pauper and Standard Pauper if we think it's relevant. Since obviously Arena Pauper has become a thing, we feel like we should cover that. And we're going to go and talk about a bunch of new cards. And there's a couple exciting ones, but a lot of stuff to get through. So let's not take too long. And we're going to start things off with Arrester's Zeal, which is a white mana for an instant. Target creature gets +2/+2. And it has the Azorius keyword for this set, Addendum. So Addendum reads, in this case, if you cast the spell during your main phase, that creature gains flying until end of turn. So all of the Azorius Addendum cards are instant speed, but if you cast them during a main phase, you get a little bit of a bonus. So Adrian, we've seen a bunch of this style of effects, like 1 white mana for +2/+2 and some upside. Do you feel like this one is getting you there?
No, I think that the mono white heroic decks would not play this card. I think they would play the green spell, mutagenic growth, instead. I think costing a mana is actually the worst part of this card, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, and like the flying isn't that great in a deck that has a ton of ways to give its creatures evasion in the form of protection or even just other options. It feels kind of just resoundingly meh, and it also doesn't really blow the lid off any of the other variants of this effect. And I don't really see a huge home for this in Standard Pauper either.
Same. I think that we have other pump effects in Standard Pauper, and I don't think this one's going to make the mono white deck that we've discussed.
All right, what do you have for us?
Following that, we have Bring to Trial. 2 and a white gets you a sorcery, exile target creature with power 4 or greater. Again, don't think you'll see a lot of play in Standard Pauper or regular Pauper. I think it's pretty weak as far as removal goes. It is interesting that it's hard removal, but actually in Standard Pauper, it would be a way to deal with the blue flyer Watcher in the Mist. So maybe it's not awful. Then they can't get it
power
back.
4 or greater, my friend.
Oh, not toughness. I read that wrong. All right.
Like, we've seen versions of this effect before, but a bunch of them are instant speed and a bunch of them are just destroy. I don't know. This is a fine limited card, but I don't really know if this has a home in either of the Pauper formats.
Same.
Continuing on riffs of cards that we've seen in the past, we've Exposed to Daylight, which is 2 and a white for an instant, destroy target artifact or enchantment, then scry 1. So I think we can pretty definitively say that this isn't for classic Pauper, but if we got Pauper best of 3 events, like, is this a reasonable option for sort of a disenchant effect?
Yeah, I think so. I think the scry makes it good. It's an instant. There are a couple instant, artifacts and enchantments you might want to hit in Standard. So I do think that it is fine.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the be-all, end-all. If you're looking for this type of effect, there is, I always forget the name of this, Dismantling Blow, which has a kicker of 2 and a blue to draw 2 cards as well. So if you want a disenchant with upside and you have access to blue, I'd probably go with that. All right. What's up next?
Next up, we have Soul Mister, or Mr. Mister from the Soul Sister song, Impassioned Orator. 1 and a white gets you a bear, a 2/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. And I do think this will see play in both regular Pauper and standard Pauper.
So I guess I'm curious as to where you think this lands in standard Pauper, because it's kind of like we have the other 2 Soul Sisters in classic Pauper. Where do you think that this could potentially find a home? Do you think this just goes in some sort of tokeny deck as a way to sort of combat other aggro decks?
Yeah, I do. Although now that you mention it, you're right. Like mono red. I mean, there was mono red, and there, it's even good in the mirror. I do think it will be just fine. It also goes well with some of the afterlife type effects, which I know we haven't gotten to here, but already kind of exist in standard Pauper because of the hunt witness and so forth. And then in regular Pauper, you note here that it won't trigger on your opponent's creatures, which is a big bummer. But I think it is still good in that style of deck because that deck, I think, always just wants more of these effects.
Also, like, notably, it doesn't die to Electrickery, which is a nice little touch.
Right.
Like, not having this die to the most commonly main decked sweeper in red decks is a nice upside. And the fact that it's not too far off rate for what we'd expect is a nice upside. All right. Next up, we have, and I've heard so many people already get this one wrong, so I'm probably going to flub it as well. Justicier's Portal?
It's not just a Justicar. I guess there is an extra I in there.
There's an extra I. I thought it was Justicar because I'm pretty sure they've used that word on Ravnica before, but I guess it's Justicier's Portal. So it's 1 and a white for an instant. Exile a creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. It gains first strike until end of turn. So we already have Otherworldly Journey, which is 1 and a white to flicker something you control until end of turn. It comes back with a +1/+1 counter. Is Justicier's Portal anything more interesting than that?
I would have to. What was the other one called?
Otherworldly Journey. So that one flickers until end of turn, and when it comes back, it gets a +1/+1 counter on it. This one flickers instantly and gives first strike.
They seem pretty comparable to me, honestly. But I don't think that we're in the market for another version of this effect. I think. Okay, so it's good on block, but then again, so is Otherworldly Journey.
But Otherworldly Journey pulls it out until end of turn.
Oh, okay. I see. Well, you can actually block with this, yeah.
Yeah, like I've swung in with a creature and and it just so happens to benefit from first strike in combat. I'm going to flicker it and eat your thing. Like, I don't know. It seems kind of neutral to me. I don't know if there's a deck that needs this. It's nice if you can trigger an ETB effect off of it, but
it doesn't seem amazing to me.
It doesn't seem amazing. It is nice to have a flicker effect in standard for standard Pauper, but I'm not really sure there's anything that takes advantage of this quite well enough. I don't know. Maybe like flickering token creators could be a thing. All right, let's move on though. We've got an interesting addition here.
Yep. Up next, we've got Knight of Sorrows. 5 mana, 4 and a white gets you a human knight 3/3. Can block an additional creature each combat. Afterlife 1. Interesting, but I think too overpriced to really mean anything for Pauper.
Yeah, I mean at this rate, you've got stuff like this is when people are casting Muldrifters and mnemonic walls and the stuff that's ending games. I just don't see a place for this, and maybe if the afterlife number was a little bit higher, I could see this. Oh, we didn't even read off what afterlife does. So
when it dies, you get a 1/1 white and black creature spirit token with flying equal to the number of afterlife on the card. So this one's afterlife 1, you get 1.
Yeah, this is basically the text on Doom Traveler, but also at 5 mana, also with a 3/3 body attached, and that just is not as good as a 1/1 that dies into another 1/1. All right, moving on. And this one I actually think is pretty interesting. So Summary Judgment is 1 and a white for an instant. It deals 3 damage to target tapped creature. It then has addendum. If you cast this spell during your main phase, it deals 5 damage to that creature instead. What are your thoughts on this? Because I actually kind of like this.
It's going to be played in standard Pauper for sure.
Oh yeah,
Because it's pretty strong. I do kind of like it as an answer to Gurmag Angler, but my only counter argument would be if you're in white and you're paying 1 and a white to get rid of Gurmag Angler, shouldn't you just be playing Journey to Nowhere? I don't think this card replaces Journey.
So I think the interesting thing about this is the flexibility of it. Like, you can remove a smaller threat on your opponent's turn or remove a large one on your turn. So it's not really the instant speed removal that we've always wanted for white, but I think it's a step in the right direction. I do definitely though hear the thought of like, why not just play Journey? I do want to note though, the interesting thing about this is if for some reason you can play this in response to your opponent doing something in one of your main phases, you still get it. Like, this isn't just cast as a sorcery. This is if you cast it during a main phase. So there's some interesting play there, but I don't know. I'm interested in this and the fact that this is, I think, better than most of its equivalents, because there was stuff like Gideon's Reproach, which was 1 and a white, deal 4 damage to an attacking or blocking creature, and the fact that like Summary Judgment lets you kind of ping off elves if you need to, I guess, is a nice little thing. And again, nothing amazing, but interesting.
Yeah. Up next, we've got Syndicate Messenger. 3 and a white gets you a bird, a 2/3 with flying and afterlife. I don't like this card. 4 mana, 2/3 with an afterlife. It just doesn't seem that strong. It doesn't go in aggro decks. You don't get any benefit from bouncing it in Boros. It just doesn't seem very good to me.
Yeah, and it kind of seems like they've settled on like 4 mana, 2/3 flyer with upside. It's just in this case that upside is not good. And also it's kind of in this weird place where if it dies in combat, you're left with a 1/1 that is potentially dying to whatever killed this. I don't know. It's just, it feels like it's in the wrong place for where it wants to be. I can't.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely agree.
Could you see this in standard though? Like in standard Pauper, like tossing this into like a tokens deck?
I just still 4 mana for a 2/3. I just don't think is where you want to be.
All right, I think that's fair. All right, moving on, we have 10th District Veteran, which is a 3 mana, 2 and a white for a 2/3 vigilance. When it attacks, untap another target creature you control. This seems like it's very like whatever for classic Pauper, but for standard Pauper, do you like this?
Vigilance 2/3 does seem good, even for 3. I think that it is fine. I don't think it's great, but it also gives something else vigilance. So actually, that might be pretty good in like a racing type situation.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, this thing races really well. Like, if you're in an aggro on aggro matchup, it lets you leave up 2 blockers. And if they have a tap ability, I guess like you can get extra value there as well. It's an interesting one. It's definitely not for classic Pauper, but like I could maybe see something for this in standard Pauper. All right, what do we have up next?
Up next, we've got Twilight Panther. W gets you a 1/2, not bad. B, Twilight Panther gains Death Touch until end of turn. I don't think it's that exciting, to be honest. I just don't know what deck would play this.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that we get Squires for 1 now, but this is just not that interesting. Moving on.
Yeah, what's next?
We have Watchful Giant, which is 5 and a white for a 3/6, so a big old beefy body there. And when it enters the battlefield, you get to create a 1/1 white human creature token. So again, probably not for classic Pauper. I don't know. 6 mana is a lot for a white deck in standard Pauper, I feel. And this isn't like winning the game on the spot, right?
Right. That's I think my problem with a lot of the white creatures that make stuff is they're just really expensive.
They're expensive and they don't like this is not what is it? Oh, I'm blanking on it. The one from Lorwyn, the giant that makes like a bunch of Kithkin with it, Cloud Goat Ranger.
Yeah, that card is really good.
Like that card is very good. This is just kind of like it's an overcosted 3/6 with an extra body attached. All right, what do you have next for us?
Well, we're getting into blue. Next up, we have a sorcery speed repulse. 2 in a blue gets you Arrester's Admonition. Admonition? Yeah. Instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Addendum: if you cast the spell during your main phase, draw a card. So I think that this is going to be a recurring issue with Addendum, actually, where it's just like not really that good or strong.
It's weird because it offers you the flexibility of playing it on your opponent's turn, but really rewards you for being ahead enough to be able to play at sorcery speed.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of a funky place. That said, like repulse and standard is probably okay if it weren't for the fact that are you ever playing this over blink of an eye?
Yeah, the answer to that is probably no, because blink of an eye is really strong.
Let's move on here. I've got Chillbringer, which is 4 and a blue for 3/3 flyer elemental. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. It doesn't untap during its next untap step. So this is another in the line of 3/3 flyers for 5 with upside. How are you feeling about this? Obviously not quite up to par for classic Pauper, but how do you feel about this for standard Pauper?
I still don't really like it. It's like a crippling chill on a 3/3 flyer for extra mana. I think that the surveil mechanics are still going to be extremely good in standard Pauper, and I don't really see this having a place.
I think I'm right there with you. This feels almost good enough, but not quite. Like, what's the upside of this? Like, you maybe get in with one more creature this turn?
Yeah, I just don't think it's that strong.
All right, well, I was going to say it can't be worse than this next card.
Actually, I think you're wrong, Mike. I think this card is fine.
All right.
Hey.
I'll hear you out.
Pauper players. Have you ever wanted to play Felden's Cane on Moto?
You shouldn't have.
Well.
You shouldn't have.
Well, you shouldn't have. But up next, we have Clear the Mind. 2 in a blue gets you a sorcery. Target player shuffles their graveyard into their library. Draw a card. I just know there are some of you out there are listening, and you want to play this in something like 100 Card Teachings. I just know it. Is the card particularly good? But I guarantee you someone is going to want to play this. Delve does make it so that you don't have to put lands back in your deck, which I think is pretty good. You know, it's a little wombo combo. In standard, a little bit less applicable, specifically because we do not have Delve. Because when you surveil away like lands from your deck, you don't want to shuffle them back in my opinion.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. There's one card later on that we'll get to and probably we'll discuss a little bit in length where there's an interesting interaction here with it, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Next up, we have Fairy Duelist. It's 1 in a blue for a 1/2 flash flying. When it enters the battlefield, a creature an opponent controls gets -2/-0 until end of turn. It's gonna be a no for me, dog. I just don't see a home for this outside of limited.
Well, if they ban Delver, no, I'm joking. Yeah, I don't see it being that good.
Yeah, it's not an attractive. I guess like the body on its own, it would have been impressive like a few years ago, but it just doesn't do a lot.
It's been outclassed.
Exactly.
Up next is Homunculus. 4 in a blue gets you a 2/5 hexproof, so goes neatly into your snapping turtle deck. And it's Fibblethip's friend, looking for Fibblethip. I don't think this card is good.
I don't think it's good, but I'm really just deeply happy that they had the chance to go for this name and they just went for it. I love the fact that it's called Homunculus.
Also, Slurp the flavor.
The flavor text: searching the city for Fibblethip felt like sifting the rain for a single drop of blood. Good old Fibblethip, always getting lost, doing homunculus things. But yeah, I like the name of it. We've got a I guess actually a strictly better card in standard right now. So, and we've had many takes on the benthic giant body. So, not in love with it. All right, next up, and let's buckle in. This is, I think, the card that got probably the second most hype when it was spoiled. Let's talk about persistent petitioners. So it's 1 and a blue for creature human advisor. It's a 1/3. It has 1 and tap. Target player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. Not great. It then has this next ability. Tap 4 untapped advisors you control. Target player puts the top 12 cards of their library in their graveyard. Okay, we're getting somewhere here. Like it's a pretty significant chunk of mill. And then we get to the last line of text, which I am baffled by. A deck can have any number of cards named persistent petitioners.
My God.
So this is
my God.
This is like the relentless rats colony, like all those black cards that you can have any number of. It's that on like a weird mill synergy. So first off, there are no other good advisors in Pauper.
Okay.
How long do you think before we see someone 5-0 a league with this thing because they just tried hard enough?
Maybe less time than you think. It's certainly in standard, at least. We're going to keep coming back to standard Pauper. Bear with us, gang. It actually is fine because it dodges a lot of removal, to be honest with you, because removal is really bad. And in regular Pauper, it still kind of gets around a lot of removal because although you can remove these, there's a lot of them. And there's no sweepers.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very curious to see how this card shakes out. I think it has the potential to have some of the highest upside out of the cards we've seen so far, and I really mean that.
And keep in mind, like this only needs to activate that like tap 4 untapped advisors thing, like maybe 4-ish times to really close out the game. And
Additionally, it's not a tap case here. Like you just tap them. It works like the elf that lets you tap.
Birch Floor Rangers.
Yeah, that and Heritage Druid, where you can just tap them.
Yeah, so like
Summoning Sickness be damned.
Like let's say we're just playing like the full meme deck where we just go, all right, we're gonna play 40 persistent petitioners and 20 islands. Like no thought to anything. I feel like it's not that unbelievable to go turn 1 land, turn 2 land, petitioners, turn 3 land, petitioners, activate the first petitioners, turn 4 2 more petitioners, mill them for 12, and then your opponent's on like a very real clock. But I'm going to be curious to see how these decks actually shake out because I feel like you're in blue. You could be doing other things besides just petitioners. Like someone pointed out Dramatic Reversal, the 1 and a blue card from Kaladesh, I want to say. Maybe that or Aether Revolt that untaps all non-land permanents you control for that big old Wombo combo.
Dude, the Wombo combo.
Like maybe the right call is like playing this in like a blue Tron shell so you can just play as many of these things as you can draw. I don't know. I'm kind of genuinely interested to see what people do with this. I don't think it's great, but it's certainly interesting. It's certainly the most interesting version of this. Any number of cards in your deck can have this card's name. I don't know.
Yeah, always an interesting thing. And also those cards are typically pretty valuable.
Yeah, I'm definitely like grabbing a whole pile of these just in case this becomes a thing. Who knows? Maybe we're looking at the future of Pauper. We're certainly looking at something that's going to show up in standard Pauper quite a bit.
Up next we have sorry, I thought that was a lead into the next one, but you meant persistent petitioners. Yes, that will show up in standard Pauper quite a bit. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Go ahead though. Get started on this next one.
Up next we have Prying Eyes, which I want to like, but is so expensive I don't. Blue 4 gets you draw 4 cards, then discard 2 cards.
I mean, like, that's velocity. Like, that's seeing a lot of cards.
Yeah, I like it, but I just worry about the expense. I always worry about how expensive stuff is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess let me ask you this. When
it's like a one of.
Yeah, like how much would you love this like late-ish game in blue-black in standard Pauper right now?
I would love it.
Like just ripping this off the top, even if it's just empty hand besides this, rip 4, discard 2. I feel like that's just stupid. Like you're going to get what you need out of that. And yeah, I think this card is really, really solid for standard Pauper. I don't know. If you could viably play like teachings, I wouldn't hate this in classic Pauper as like a one of. Like,
Yeah.
like just being able to like late game, like tutor this out and then just like drown your opponent in card advantage. I don't know. That's my take on it.
I agree.
All right,
What do we have next?
let's talk about a card that is strictly worse than like 5 different cards. Quench is 1 in a blue for an instant. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. How many cards can you name that have the same mana cost that are better than this?
Mana Leak 1.
Rune Snag gets better with time.
Rune Snag. Rune Snag. All right, he's got me there.
Like I don't think this is good. And I think in standard Pauper, you just want to play Syncopate over this. So big old pass from me. You got anything else to say on this?
Big ol' no from me, dog. Up next, we have Sage's Rose Savant, which, again, don't think is very good. 1 in a blue gets you a 2/1 when it is a battlefield scry 2. And regular Pauper, and I think even in standard Pauper, we already have Omen Speaker, which I think is just a better version of this in the decks that are playing this card.
In the decks where you want to be spending turn 2 just scrying, yeah, I'd rather have a 1/3 that blocks some aggressive creatures. Like it's a bad imitation of Augur Bolus, but that card is good. All right, let's move on to other defensive shaped bodies with Senate Courier, which is 2 in a blue for a 1/4 with flying, and for 1 in a white it gains vigilance until end of turn. Thoughts and feelings?
Limited filler, not great anywhere else. I don't think it's very good.
I think I'm right there with you. How about you bring us on to the next one?
Shimmer of Possibility, 1 in a blue sorcery, beautiful artwork. Look at the top 4 cards for your library. Put 1 of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. So it's like a sorcery speed impulse.
It's exactly sorcery speed impulse, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably fine in standard, but definitely not better than impulse.
Yeah, it's certainly not better than impulse, but I feel fine playing this in standard Pauper. Like you're definitely like playing it. The fact you have to play it on your own turn is not great, but I guess in standard Pauper, would you rather run with this or Anticipate, which is instant speed, same cost, 1 less card that you get to look at?
I would rather play Anticipate. I think the instant speed, having the future knowledge, is just so much stronger.
All right, that's fair enough to me. All right, we've got Skitter Eel, which is the first example of the Simic mechanic for this set. So Skitter Eel is 3 in a blue for a 3/3. Not great. It is a fish crab. And for 2 and a blue, you can adapt 2. And adapt 2 reads, if this creature has no +1/+1 counters on it, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Okay. This feels like limited draft trash. Am I wrong?
No, it's bad.
All right, what do we have next?
Slime Bind, which is really fun to say. Say it.
Slime Bind. Ooh, that is like distinctly not slimy in the mouth when you say it.
Slime Bind. 1 in a blue gets you a flash enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -4/-0.
I mean, what's the one from Eldritch Moon? The one that Delver played for a while in its board.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It gives -X/-0.
Where it's like the number of cards in your graveyard or cards in hand. I forget which one.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I cannot remember what that card is called. I want to say Unstable Mutation, but that's not it.
It's probably another mutation. Spontaneous Mutation.
Nailed it.
There we go. But I think that one's also 1 blue and scales with your graveyard. So as fun as Slime Bind is to say, I think it's going to get the pass. And this next one's also probably getting a pass from us. So this is Thought Collapse. 1 blue, instant, counter target spell. Its controller puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard.
So cancel is legal in standard Pauper. You've noticed that this is cancel with upside number 50. I would argue that in some cases this is not upside. What if you put something in your graveyard your opponent wanted to put in their graveyard?
Yeah, I mean, if you could target yourself with this, would you feel better? Like if you could counter a spell and then mill yourself for 3.
Yes, I would feel better about that.
I'm kind of in the same boat.
Well, we're in a format with what's the cinema mechanic called? Not flashback, but jumpstart. Jumpstart. You don't want to mill some jumpstart cards.
Ooh, that is true. Like there are reasons to not mill your opponent, but yeah, this is not dreadfully exciting.
For that,
Yeah, what do we have after that?
we get in the black. Our first card, which I love, is Blade Juggler. 4 and a black gets you a 3/2. When Blade Juggler enters the battlefield, if it deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card, or to Spectacle 2 and a black. Spectacle is the Rakdos mechanic, and it says if your opponent lost life this turn, you may cast it for its Spectacle cost. Really interesting. It's good in regular Pauper and mono black with like Kumbah witches, or in the Rakdos build. I don't think it'll replace Rager because I think having the Spectacle condition is worse enough that it's not really worth the extra power. But I just think it's an interesting card, and I love the artwork.
Do you think that this could be like Rager number 5 or 6?
I think even then you would still play the card from Ixalan, Legion, whatever.
Oh, the 2 mana 1/1.
Yeah, I think you would play that instead.
Okay, I can definitely see that. All right, but yeah, it's interesting to see something that compares favorably to an old Pauper card. I think in standard Pauper, this is probably fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. Next up, we have Blade Brand. 1 and a black, instant, target creature gains death touch until end of turn, draw a card. I'm going to pass on this one as well. Doesn't seem good.
Yeah, I think it's not that good. Then we have Carrying Him, 4 and a black, flying. When it's the battlefield, you may exile a target creature card from a graveyard. If you do, you gain 2 life. Not that interested in this card as either.
Yeah, the 4 mana 1/2 flyers are just too little too late. It is nice that in standard Pauper, this is not like the world's most embarrassing main deck if there's some graveyard deck running around, but I'm not in love with it. Oh, and also it's only a creature card? Ugh. Sorry, I did not read this card fully. If it was any card, I'd be minorly interested, but no, I'm good. Next up, this is a departure from one of our usual rules. We usually exclude all vanilla creatures, but a patron of ours requested that we read the flavor text of this card. And Adrian, are you ready to give this your all?
Well, we gotta say what it is. This is Catacomb Crocodile. 4 and a black gets you a 3/7.
With beautiful Nils Ham artwork. This is like the creepiest of crocodiles. And the flavor text reads as follows. I am Sewer King, said Rat. I am quick and cunning, and I know every tunnel.
No, I am king, said Zombie. I am cold and deadly, and no rot can harm me. Then Croc came and ate them both.
Next up, we have Consigned to the Pit, which is a great name and not a great card. It is 5 and a black for a sorcery, destroy target creature. Consigned to the Pit deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. Gonna have to pass this one as well.
Up next, we have Dead Revels, which... Is that not already the name of a card?
I believe Dead Reveler is a card from maybe like from somewhere in Return to Ravnica. It's a creature.
It's from Return to Ravnica. Final Revels is what I'm thinking of, or Final Revels, I guess. And it is a black rare from Lorwyn.
Huh.
Or black uncommon from Lorwyn.
All right, so what does Dead Revels do for us?
Dead Revels, 3 and a black, return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Spectacle, 1 black. Don't think it's very good. We already have Soul Salvage in standard Pauper, and I just don't think this effect is going to see a lot of play in regular Pauper.
Yeah, and we've got even better versions of this style of effect in classic Pauper, so it's a neat take on it, but probably not good enough.
Yeah. What's next?
Next up, we have Debtor's Transport, which is 5 and a black for a very, very round thrall. It's a 5/3, and it is Afterlife 2. So you get 2 1/1 flyers out of the deal. Man, 6 mana is just a lot to ask for this, right?
Yeah, just not that good.
All right. How about you read this next one, which I was interested in just because of the sheer number of words on this card.
Yeah, 3 and a black gets you Ill-Gotten Inheritance, an enchantment. At beginning of your upkeep, Ill-Gotten Inheritance deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. So, actually, a spectacle trigger. 5 and a black, sacrifice Ill-Gotten Inheritance. It deals 4 damage to target opponent, and you gain 4 life. So, essentially, it's like Curse the Pierced Heart.
Yeah. Kind of. I mean, it does put you out of range of your opponent attacking a little bit better, but I don't know. This is interesting in terms of complexity, but it seems very slow. I tell you what, though, I'm going to enjoy the train wreck of a Ravnica Allegiance draft that I do, where 4 of these are my only win cons, and I'm just going to do terribly. All right. Shall we move on?
Yep.
Next up, we have Plague White, which is 1 and a black for a creature zombie. It's a 2/1, and whenever it gets blocked, each creature blocking it gets -1/-1 until end of turn. And I've noted here, this is just flanking.
This is just straight up flanking. Y'all crazy.
Also, like, this is a color shifted version of Kolagun Aspirant from, I forget if it was Fate Reforged or Dragons of Tarkir. I'm so sorry, but that card didn't see a bunch of play. I doubt this is going to see a bunch of play either. Like, you can get cute and put a lure effect on it and wipe your opponent's X1s. I don't know. I'm reaching here. What is up next for us?
Up next, we have Rakdos Trumpeter. 1 in the black is you a 1/3. Not bad. Menace. Not bad. 3 in a red. Rakdos Trumpeter gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So this is not a bad card. There's just so much going on, and the pump is in another color.
Yeah. This feels very limited. Actually, this entire cycle of like off-color activations feels very limited foddery. And also 4 mana to give it +2/+0 is quite a bit. Long gone are the days of just simple fire breathing. I don't know. I'm not in it. Next we have Thirsting Shade. So Shade's long history in Magic. Black creatures that pump themselves for black mana. And in this case, Thirsting Shade is 1 black for a 1/1 with lifelink. And for 3 and a black, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. How are you feeling about that rate instead?
There's already a better shade in standard. It's Veiled Shade.
All right.
1 in a black, 2 in a black, it's you a 2/2, 1 in a black to pump.
Okay, yeah. I think we can firmly say that lifelink isn't breaking even on this one. What's up next?
Undercity Scavenger, 3 in a black, it's you a 3/3. When Undercity Scavenger enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, put 2 1/1 counters on Undercity Scavenger, then scries you. Wow, the complexity on these commons is high.
Yeah, and I also, like, again, this is exploit from Dragons of Tarkir. But I don't know, this feels fine as like the top end of some like tokeny deck in standard Pauper.
Yep, I agree.
4 mana 5/5 scry 2? Sure.
There's finally an Aristocrats type deck.
Yeah, it might not be the most efficient, but it's there.
And up next, a very badly needed tool. What do we have?
We have Undercity's Embrace, and the last time we talked about Standard Pauper, we lamented the fact that we didn't have this effect in Standard Pauper. Undercity's Embrace is 2 and a black. For an instant, target opponent sacrifices a creature. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you gain 4 life. So, Hexproof finally isn't, like, undealable with, I guess?
Yeah, I think it's going to be good.
Do you think this has any home within Classic Pauper?
No. I think Chainer's and Diabolic, the mana matters more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you just off any 3 mana Edict?
Yeah, I think so. Not even Cruel Edict sees play, and it's it costs less.
Yeah. All right. How about you take this next one, since I feel this is tangentially relevant to your interests.
Burning Tree Vandal, 2 in a red with Riot. Riot is the Gruul mechanic. It can enter the battlefield with your choice of a 1 counter or haste. It's a 2/1. When it attacks, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not sure this has a home in Classic Pauper, but like, it's red card filtering. This seems fine and limited, but I guess that's kind of the extent of where as far as I want to go with this.
Yeah.
But that's just me. All right, next we have Deface, which is technically strictly better than a card. Deface is... Oh, no, it's not even strictly better than the card I'm thinking of. Deface is a red for a sorcery. Just choose 1, destroy target artifact, destroy target creature with Defender.
The art's really nice.
The art is really nice. But yeah, not a good one. What's next?
Gore Clan Wrecker, 3 in a red for a Riot 2/2 with Menace. Still not that good.
Yeah, I mean, Menace is nice on this thing. Like, it at least is going to get in a lot more frequently, but yeah, I'm not here for it. Next up, we have Goblin Kindle. It's Goblin Gathering. So 2 and a red gets you a sorcery. Create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to 2 plus the number of cards named Goblin Gathering in your graveyard.
This card is a trap.
You think it's just straight up a trap?
It is worse than Hordeling Outburst, except when you cast it the 4th time.
Doesn't it get better on the 3rd time? Because
the first Hordeling Outburst, you get 2, or you get 3.
Uh-huh.
The first one of this, you get 2.
Mm-hmm.
The second Hordeling Outburst, you get 3, so now you have 6. The second one of these you cast, now you have
5.
5?
Yeah.
The next Hordeling Outburst you cast, you get 9. The next one of these that you cast, you get 4. So it's even, right?
Okay, so you
wrong?
Yeah, you break even and then you're 2 up if you can cast all 4 of these.
Right. So I don't think it's that good.
Man, I hate when you come in with these facts and these numbers, because I looked at this and I saw create goblins and the number 2, and I was just like, empty the warrens. And I did not actually think it through. Do you think, though, this has a place in standard Pauper since we don't have access to Hordeling Outburst?
I don't think there's really a red token deck yet, but if there is, this one will be good.
Yeah, I could definitely see, like, if someone makes this sort of sub-theme work, like, sure, this feels like it slots right in there. All right, what do we have next?
Gravelhide Goblin. 1 and a red gets you a 2/1 Goblin. So it's literally Goblin Piker. But wait, 3 and a green, Gravelhide Goblin gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
It sure is a Root Walla. It's actually even better than a Root Walla. You can use this ability multiple times a turn, but it's not good.
What's up?
Next up, we have Rubble Reading, which is 3 and a red for a sorcery. Destroy target land, scry 2.
Marine Bro will like this card.
No, you shouldn't play this card. Play better land destruction if you're going to do that. All right. What's up next?
Roll Belt Recluse, 4 and a red, gets you a 6/5, attacks each combat with it if able. Still impressive stats, but still don't think it's good.
All right, let's move on to the next one, because this is one that we'll actually discuss. Skewer the Critics. 3 and a red for sorcery. Skewer the Critics deals 3 damage to any target. Spectacle, 1 red.
So
it's a lightning bolt?
Yeah, it is bolt.
It's bolt at sorcery speed. Do you so let's get into this. Where do you think this goes? Is it just burn, or do you think there's other potential applications for it?
I think it's really just burn. And the reason I think that is I don't think a lot of other decks want like a bad bolt.
Yeah. So I guess then the next question is, what do you cut out of burn for this?
That's a much harder question.
Like the first thing that comes to mind is, like, there's the option of cutting Curse of the Pierced Heart, because it doesn't synergize with this. It's one of the few things in burn that doesn't turn this on. But I honestly don't know. Like, that list is really tight.
Not for us to decide.
I mean, not for us to decide, but this is going to see play. This is the only one of these where I can say, like, definitively this will see play in standard Pauper, in classic Pauper. I can't imagine this not showing up in some lists. Do you wanna take this next one?
Next we have Spear Spewer, which is like Goblin Fire, whatever. Defender, tap. Spear Spewer deals 1 damage to each player. Oh, so it's worse. And it's a 0/2.
Yeah, not gonna be making waves in classic Pauper, and I'm not sure this is where you want to be in standard either.
And what do we have next?
Spike Wheel Acrobat. It's 3 and a red for a 5/2. Spectacle, 2 and a red. That's all the text on the card. So that is a real fragile body, and even in standard Pauper, I really don't like that 2 toughness.
Yeah, Shock's a card. I don't think it's very good.
No. What's next?
Up next, we have Storm Strike. Target creature gets +1/+0 against first strike on end of turn. Excuse me, scry 1. So, not the red combat trick you really need.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it even in something like the old mono red heroic decks of yore. Next up, we have Open the Gates. And I saw a bunch of people talking about this, and I want to tell you this. Don't play this card. Open the Gates is a green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card or gate card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your library. Adrian.
Yes.
Why shouldn't people play Lay of the Land Volume 2?
Because it goes into your hand, not onto the battlefield.
Yup. Exactly. This is not actually ramp. It just guarantees you'll hit your land drops. I think we can move on from here.
Yep. Following that, we have Rampaging Rindhorn 4/4 for 5. Riot. Meh.
So, 5 mana 4/4 haster. Doesn't really have a home, but that's a pretty reasonable body.
What do we have next?
Next, we have Sagittar's Volley, which is 2 and a green. For an instant, destroy target creature with flying. Sagittar's Volley deals 1 damage to each creature with flying your opponent controls.
After destroying target creature with flying.
Yeah. So you kill their big flyer and you ping off any like X1 flyers.
That's interesting, but I don't think very good.
Like, I mean, yeah, like what's the dream with this? You cast this, kill their Delver and a bunch of fairies for 3 mana.
Yeah, it's not great.
I don't know. It's not great. What's next?
Ceruli Caretaker. G gives you an 0/3. Defender, tap an untapped creature you control, and tap this. Add 1 mana of any color. So it's a creature Springleaf Drum, which I don't think is very good. It's like the worst. It's like the worst Springleaf Drum.
Like an 0/3 body is reasonably difficult to take care of. It also feels weird to have this in standard with Convoke as a mechanic. Is that just me?
Yeah.
I don't know. Next up, we have Sauriform Hybrid, which is 1 and a green for a 2/2 creature, human lizard warrior. And it has 4 green, adapt 4. So for 8 mana, you get a vanilla 6/6.
Hooray.
Yeah.
After that, we have Steeple Creeper, 4/2 for 2 and a green, 3 and a blue. Steeple Creeper gains flying until end of turn. Again, don't think it's very good.
Yeah. A good name, though, right?
Steeple Creeper. There's a lot of fun ones this set.
Yeah. It is also a frog snake because...
There's a lot of crazy Simic creatures this time around, too.
Yes, there certainly are. Next, we have Stony Strength, which is a green instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Untap that creature.
So I think this card is good. I just don't think Stompy is very good right now.
Would you want this in Stompy? Like, because that's where I'd think to put it, but I guess what's the... convince me a little bit here of that.
All right, it doesn't go into Stompy.
All right. It is a neat effect, though.
Sorry, I was just trying to make it so that we weren't negging on literally everything.
I mean, this is
what happens.
This is a standard set. I mean, they're not usually blowing our socks off. Sylvan Brush Strider, 3 and a green for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. I'm gonna say next on this one.
Territorial Boar, 1 and a green, gets you a 2/2. Whatever creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control. Territorial Boar gets +1/+1 and gains vigilance until end of turn. I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's not great, but this next one I actually think is interesting. Titanic Brawl. It's 1 and a green for an instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if it targets a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So it's just a green for an instant speed spell if it targets something with a +1/+1 counter on it. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So this is instant speed prey upon if your creature has a +1/+1 counter on it. Now, does this go in Stompy?
Yeah, this is a little bit better. It's a removal spell. But you have to get those 1/1 counters somehow, Mike.
You do. I mean, I guess what you're currently jamming. Why can I not come up with the name of this thing? The one with the wolves on it.
Oh yeah, Hunger of the Howlpack.
Hunger of the Howlpack. Thank you. I don't know, like
or Skargan Pit Skulk.
Skargan Pit Skulk also gets counters on it.
Yeah, I guess its biggest upside is that it only costs G.
Yeah, like it's a cheap fight spell. I'm not blown away by it, but I do love that art. I do love that big old kaiju battle going on. How about you take us out of the last green card here, and we can get into the gold stuff.
This one I do think we'll see play in standard Pauper. mostly because the convoke worm does. And although I guess this doesn't have convoke, but a 6, it's wrecking beast, 5 green green, riot, trample, 6/6. And I just think like a 6/6 haste trample is good. Like I think that's going to see play in standard Pauper.
I mean, like, if you don't have an answer for it immediately, it is going to smack you for a bunch. Even if you have the removal next turn, this thing is going to hurt.
Yeah.
Do you think, I don't know, like, is there a case for this as like a potential reanimate target in classic Pauper?
I guess the haste makes it so that that's not awful, but it doesn't have the same synergy that like Striped Riverwinder has, or the inevitability that like Ulamog's Crusher has. But I mean, it's still like a must answer. So because it has trample.
Yeah, and like the fact that it can be hasty even if you don't have the dragon breath.
Yeah, I actually don't hate that.
Yeah, like I'm not saying it becomes like the main reanimate target in your deck, but I think it could certainly be tested out as like a 1 or 2 of. All right, let's get into the gold. And we are going by set order, so these might not be in color order. I apologize for anyone out there who's bothered by that. We're starting off with monkulis, which is 2, a green and a blue for a 2/3 with flying, and for 2, a blue and a green, you can adapt 1. So you wind up with a 3/4 flyer.
All right.
Yeah, let's move on from there.
After that, we have applied Biomancy, which is almost like a charm. Instant, blue, green, choose one or both. Target creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Return target creature to its owner's hand. So I do like that flexibility.
I mean, it is kind of neat that it's in that like jilt range of like you can potentially set this up as a 2-for-1 if you get real creative with it. I think it requires a little bit more finesse than something like jilt, which is just a straight up 2-for-1, but I don't know. Is the catch is like, what blue-green deck do you want to play this in?
Yeah, it doesn't really exist, but maybe in standard.
Yeah, maybe. I think this is a fine card for standard Pauper.
A fine boy.
A fine boy. Next we have Azorius Knight Arbiter, which is 3, a white and a blue for a 2/5 with vigilance, and it can't be blocked. Boy, howdy, I'm going to hate losing to this in Arena Pauper.
Yeah, I think that's really the only place it can go.
Yeah, five mana that is not winning you the game is not a good time in Classic Pauper, but like, man, this thing is just going to hit in for 2 each turn, and it's going to block something big, and I just feel like there's some decks that aren't going to be able to beat this thing, but we'll have to see. I don't know. I like it for standard Pauper. What's next?
Up next, we have maybe one of the best new gets in the set, Final Payment, white and a black, as an instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, pay 5 life or sacrifice a creature or enchantment. Destroy target creature. It's a lot like Terminate.
You know what I actually thought of when I saw this?
What?
Dismember.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot like Dismember, too.
I really like this. Like, it's instant speed removal. It's 2 CMC. It is a little bit more restrictive, but how many games can you think of where you can't fulfill one of those 3 additional costs? Or even better yet, how many games where you don't have a creature enchantment and you're below 5 life are you likely going to win because of a Doomblade? Or a murder, I guess, in this case.
Probably not that likely.
Yeah, this feels like a really solid piece of removal. It's a little restrictive in the casting cost, but I think this is legitimately good. I'm going to be interested to see if this finds a home, especially because like the current black-white decks are not really in the market for more removal. Although I guess in the Pestilence Mirror, this does let you clear out your opponent's Guardian of the Guild Pact.
Yeah, I think it's a very powerful card, if nothing else.
Yeah, and again, like just the modality of it, the fact that this is almost never uncastable is really, really neat. Are there any enchantments that are worth sacrificing in Pauper? I couldn't come up with any.
Pestilence.
But like sacrificing, like something where you get value off of sacrificing it.
Oh, I don't know. I just thought that, sacrificing your own Pestilence could be a thing for this.
Yeah. All right. But yeah, final payment is a solid piece of removal, and I'm going to be interested to see if it sees play. What's up next?
Frenzied airings. 2 of black, red and a green, gets you a 3/3 riot. So that 1/1 counter or haste. It does trample, and you can pump it for 6 for green and a red to give it +3/+0 until end of turn. I think it is a powerful card. There's not really a Gruul deck in regular Pauper, but I would be interested in this in standard.
Oh, definitely. Like the fact that it has trample and buffs itself, it's got late game inevitability within that format. But yeah, 4 mana, again, a little too high. And much like this next card, get to the point. The point is this card's not dreadfully playable. It's 3 a black and a red for an instant destroy target creature, scry 1. This is...
Yeah, you could just play Wrecking Ball.
Yeah, you could play Wrecking Ball in Classic Pauper, or you could play any of the other 5 mana black kill a thing with upside.
Now, this is an instant, so it does have that going for it.
It is an instant.
Most of the other ones are sorceries.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't. It's not drawing me in. I do love the flavor though. I do love this like man on a like throwing knife board. All right, what's up next?
Grasping Thrall, 5 mana, 3 a white and a black. Gets you a 3/3 with flyer. When Grasping Thrall enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. So you could flicker this with the white flicker spell.
Yeah, and it's got gorgeous Seb McKinnon art. I will fully admit I have played a card that I think is worse than this in the same vein. I've played what is it, Blind Hunter?
Or what is it?
The haunt creature. So it's 2 a white and a black for a 2/2 flyer, and it has haunt. So whenever it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to target player. You gain 2 life, and then when it dies, you exile it, haunting another creature. And when that creature dies, you get to do that ETB again.
Yeah, haunt.
Yeah. Haunt was not a good or smooth mechanic, but Grasping Thrall not really wowing me. This next one, however, and this is one of the earliest ones we saw in this set, is Growth Spiral. It's a green and a blue for an instant. Draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. How do you feel about this?
So this is Spiral Power.
It certainly is.
I think it's fine. I think it's good.
Like
it's like Explore.
It's Explore at instant speed. I'm not sure what deck gets to play this. Like, do you play this in like the Fogtron just to be able to hit Tron quicker, or like hit your colored sources quicker? I'm just uncertain as to this.
There is that cynic or Sultai land destruction list with like Volley, Acid Moss and stuff that could run this.
I guess it could. I guess like you could also use this to like pop in a like if you leave 2 mana up, you can hold up a counter spell or this, and then if you get to cast this, like plop down a Karoo. But like, I don't know. I think that this is a very powerful card. I just don't know what deck gets to play it, especially given the current metagame. But like, I'm just not sure it has a home. But I'll be interested to see what exactly comes of this. What's our next thing on this list?
Imperious Oligarch, which I do think is good. White and a black gets you a Vigilance 2/1 with Afterlife 1. And I do think that this will see play. Maybe the mono white deck as we know it will go into white black, so we can splash this and the Terminate type card in standard. In regular Pauper, kind of a nombo in the black white deck, which is Pestilence. So don't think you'll see play there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I was like, oh, you can Pestilence and like it pops this thing and then you get a 1/1 spirit and then it dies the next time you activate Pestilence. I don't know. This is a neat card. It's definitely like very pushed as far as this type of effect because this is Doom Traveler for a black more, but you get Vigilance and a point of power for that. That seems pretty solid. All right. This next card, I need you to tell me if you think that the unofficial title for Law Mage's Binding should be Fluoresced or Restant.
Okay.
So this is one of blue and a white for an enchantment aura, flash, enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So this is a rest with flash.
It seems interesting.
I mean, I'm again like this kind of falls into the same trap of like what deck gets to play this. Is Acid Trip playing it?
Standard Pauper will like this.
Yeah.
That's the deal with a lot of these cards. I feel like they're good and they're fine in standard, but it's just like in regular Legacy Pauper, I guess it gets much harder.
Do you think part of that is the fact that this is the set where a bunch of the guilds don't line up with popular color combinations for Classic Pauper? Do you think it's just that?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah.
I mean, it's just something I noticed because like blue-white doesn't really have a deck. Blue-green doesn't really have a deck. White-black kind of has like Pestilence's thing. Red-green doesn't have a deck, and black-red doesn't really. I guess they've got that up-and-coming Rakdos control thing, but outside of that, like most of these are not the powerhouse combinations of our format. How about you tell us about Rafter Demon, though?
I mean, what is there to say, Mike? It's 2, a black and a red for a 4/2. Spectacle 3, a black and a red. When Rafter Demon enters the battlefield, if the spectacle cost was paid, each opponent discards a card.
I'm not sure I want to be like Ravenous Ratsing my opponent on turn 5.
Yeah, it's not great. What do we have next?
Next up, more Rakdos. We have Rakdos Roustabout, which is 1, a black and a red for an Ogre Warrior. It's a 3/2. Whenever it becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to the player or Planeswalker it's attacking.
It's not bad, but not great.
It's got like weird, like almost trample where it hits you for 1.
Afflict.
It has afflict. Man, there's just a lot of like unkeyworded versions of keyworded effects in this set. All right. This next one, tell me about it. Let me know about this.
Rubble Belt Raider, 1, a red and a green for a 3/3. Can't be blocked by creature tokens, so if you got a lot of tokens in your meta, it might be the card for you.
But you're also playing a 3/3 for 3.
Yeah. What's next?
Savage Smash. It's 1 green and a red for a sorcery. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. It fights target creature you don't control. If this was hybrid, I would love it so much more.
Yeah, it's a tough casting cost for a kind of decent effect. It is a removal effect. Although if you're in red, I think there are better options. And if you're green, I mean, you're going to be playing the green fight spells.
Yeah, like I like the +2/+2 aspect of this. That's a pretty decent buff.
That's pretty nice.
But yeah, it doesn't quite get there in other categories. Next up, we have Sphinx's Insight, which is 2, a white and a blue for an instant. Draw 2 cards. Addendum, if you cast the spell during your main phase, you gain 2 life. Definitely standard Pauper. I'm not sure any deck in Classic Pauper wants this.
Yeah, same.
It's inspiration with a harder to hit mana cost most of the time.
Up next, we've got Footlight Fiend, hybrid black-red. When Footlight Fiend dies, it does 1 damage to any target. It is Goblin Arsonist.
It's Goblin Arsonist, but you can play it in black.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. Like, there's not much flair to this card. Much the same with Rubble Slinger, which is 2, a red and a green for a 2/3 with reach. And that's it. Gonna pass on this one. How about you start rounding us out here? What's up next?
Scuttle Gator, 4 hybrid blue-green. Hybrid blue-green gets you a crab turtle crocodile defender. 6 hybrid blue-green, blue-green, adapt 3. As long as Scuttle Gator has it's a 6/6, so and as long as Scuttle Gator has a 1/1 counter on it, it can attack as though it didn't have defender. So you can have a 9/9 for 12. No.
14.
For 14 mana. Yeah.
That is a lot to ask, but I think a 9/9 is it's at least tied for the largest body in standard. It does have my favorite type line out of this entire set. It's got that going for it.
You don't like elf lizard wizard?
Oh, there is the lizard wizard, isn't there? I don't know. Crab, turtle, crocodile is just really good. It's just a bunch of angry things with difficult to penetrate skin, and I like it. But yeah, even standard Pauper, this is an ask. Next we have Senate Griffin, which I'm actually interested in your take on. It's 2 hybrid blue-white for a 3/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, scry 1.
I don't hate it, but I think that there are better flyers.
I think there are better flyers. I think it's perfectly fine in standard Pauper, like especially because you could run this in a mono white deck as your top end. Just like slam a flyer, scry, get that much needed card filtering, and move on with your day. But yeah, I'm not into this for standard Pauper. How about you introduce the last solo card of the set?
Up next, we have Viscopa Vampire, 2 hybrid black-white, 2 and a hybrid black-white, I should say. Lifelink 3/1, so it's like Child of Night, but bigger, and it costs more.
And you can technically play it in white?
Yeah. But not very good, yeah.
I have a question. Have you just been disappointed with the hybrid creatures in general these past 2 sets? I just haven't been like enamored with them.
It's a lot more exciting from the standard level, but yeah, there's just not really anything for regular Pauper, it feels like. I mean, there are some good gets. That lightning bolt will definitely see play, but as a whole, and like this set was good from a complexity standpoint, but as a whole, there's just, I mean, the decks are very powerful, and the 3 decks that are dominant are very dominant, and they just don't want to play any of these cards.
Yeah, and obviously, like, there are decks that would love to be able to splash final payment, but splashing stuff in Pauper is just such a risk, especially when it's removal, which is something you generally want to count on for certain matchups. This looks like a really fun set to draft, and we definitely got, like, I think the Petitioners, Final Payment, and Skewer the Critics, I think are all really interesting cards that people should be investigating and should be brewing with to see what they can come up with. But really outside of that, I'm not sure that this set... Oh, and I guess there's Growth Spiral, where I'm just baffled as to where that could go. But on the whole, this set was kind of a dud.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess... Are there any hopes for Ravnica 3, which is coming? War of the Spark, I believe, is the now revealed name.
Yes, because it'll be a chance to see these guilds rehashed again. The gold cards are powerful, and getting more shots at them is always good.
I really think that we're going to see like some sort of 3-color shenanigans in this last set, or like a bunch of gold stuff. So I've got my hopes up, but, you know...
Yeah, that's what I think too. I was just thinking, like switching around guilds, or I think it's gonna be very interesting.
Yeah. All right. So takeaway from this, we've got like 4, maybe 5 cards that'll see play out of this set. I guess, are you optimistic for standard Pauper the next time it comes on Arena?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is going to be where you're going to see a lot of these cards get played. Even some that we might have thought were stinkers. Certainly could have their applications. I'm very interested to see in how the metagame shakes up with the introduction of the new cards. And I'm starting to understand why people like standard so much. Things get shaken up, and so it's a never-changing format.
I also like that while like classic Pauper is having a little bit of a painful time at the moment in terms of certain things within the metagame. I like the fact that we have standard Pauper to discuss, just because, it's easy to get excited for new cards when the format is like maybe 400 cards as opposed to 6,000 cards.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of this set, and I think I'll probably leave it at that. I don't have huge hopes. I'm going to enjoy casting Skewer the Critics every time I play Burn, but that's just me. Sometimes you just gotta play a red deck. All right. Unless you have anything else to say, I think we can close up this set review. Another glorious set in the books.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. This podcast is brought to us by our patrons, including Nerd to the Core. Thank you so much. Please consider supporting us if you like the show. Check below this video or the description of this podcast for details on where to find us. If you got this on a platform with reviews, please leave us a notice. They're always appreciated. If you got a deck listing for a topic, you can contact us either via our website or you can email us directly at colorcommentary@gmail.com. Special thanks to Pat's Games, my LGS, Mike's LGS, JP Comics, and of course L. You can find our theme song Quantitative and other great tracks or over at soundcloud.net/ELLELLELL. Till next week, this is Adrian and Mike, and we are signing off for Color Commentary.